newspapers. Okay, the hard copy or maybe on a website, on the app, fine. But then none of them, I mean, just 6 or 7 of the 60 students usually I get to see who are reading the newspapers. And I'm sure this is the situation more or less all across India. And that's what we feel, that reading is actually a word, is a window to the world. It's a magic. It's a portable magic. And if the students read, their foundation would be so good and they will have the needed values and a vision for life. Now, this is needed for the students' life, and IPS Students Forum and our college, we felt that it is necessary to have a national webinar on this occasion. And to celebrate this day, we have with us a great speaker, a prolific speaker, Dr. Ullas Koladkar from Mumbai, Maharashtra. Before I introduce our speaker for today, I want to say thank you to our IPA president, Dr. TV Narayana, Nair sir, the entire IPA team, and Mr. Seshasai, who always help us for every IPA program. And they have also provided us the Zoom platform to have n number of programs during this year. I'm sure our enthusiastic student leaders like Pradnya, Yogendra, and IPS Students Forum are going to make the best use of this opportunity to reach out to the students and faculty all across India and maybe all across the world. So thank you, Dr. TV Narayana, President IPA, for giving us this platform, for opening up the opportunities to use the platform widely throughout this year. Now it is my proud privilege and I'm very delighted to introduce to you the today's speaker, Dr. Ullas Koladkar. He is a practicing pediatrician. As you can see his degrees, MD and DCH and FCPS. And he is also the past district governor of the district 3140 of Rotary. Dr. Koladkar has been always a bright student. I must tell this to this audience because most of you are students here who have got connected to us today. He has been a bright student, the national talent scholar in the school, college. He's also a Sanskrit scholar. He has been gold medalist in all his postgraduate exams in medicine. He is Associate Honorary Professor of Pediatrics at Terna Medical College, Navi Mumbai. He has published many articles in national international pediatric journals. He's a very well-known resource speaker for CMEs, that is the continuing medical education programs. He has conducted many public health workshops. And now when the lockdown started, see, the COVID changed our lifestyle and we were at home. Everybody went digitally. The world got fast forwarded digitally. Doctor took an opportunity and he has completed so many online certificate courses in pediatrics from Stanford University, from Harvard University, with nothing less than 100% of the score. So we always call him a lifelong learner. He has been practicing pediatrician in this area of Maharashtra, that is Dombivli. And he has his own Siddhi hospital for last 36 years. And he's the managing director of a specialty hospital for children known as S Children's Hospital in Dombivli, Maharashtra. All of you may feel that this completes his introduction. Yes, he's a successful practicing pediatrician and he's a gold medalist. So you may feel that this is all. But my dear students and my all colleagues, no, that's not it. He's got much more to it, and that's why he's a very, very special leader. I request everyone to be muted, yes. So he's a leader. So the medical field is only part of his life. He's got many more dimensions, and he's a leader in the Rotary. He's a very successful Rotarian. He has been the Rotary president, Rotary Club president, as well as a district governor for the Rotary District 3140. He is Rotary District Coordinator for 22 districts. And he has been chairman for last 10 years of Indian Education Society, which is more than 100 years old society, educational society, which manages 44 schools and colleges in Maharashtra. He's involved in but what is special about Dr. Ullas, that he doesn't go for just titles. His leadership is much beyond the titles, and he's involved in numerous social activities, giving effective leadership to many organizations in diverse fields, that is education, social, cultural, health, medicine, yoga, literature, and environment. You just name it. He's a prolific speaker, and he can speak. He can speak. He can give you a wonderful lecture on any and every topic that you request him. He has given more than 3,500 lectures on various topics: Rotary, education, health, yoga, environment, sports, time management, philosophy. I mean, nothing left for him to speak on. He has compared more than 200 programs, even on music. He's a music lover, on education, health, literacy. Now, why we have invited him today, especially because he has been an author of more than 30 books. You can see these beautiful covers of his various books. He has written books on Rotary. No wonder he has written books on Rotary. But along with that, he has written books on so many different variety of subjects: yoga, psychology, child health, education, Zen philosophy, time management. And one of his special book, I feel it's very special, very valuable, is he has written a book on Beyond Allopathy. So a modern medicine doctor, a child specialist, a leading pediatrician writing on alternative medicines, going beyond allopathy, is something very special. And how is he as a reader? Do you know that he's got 3,500 books at his home on variety of subjects, and he has read or referred to all these books. Every year he purchases at least 50 books. I was told that that's the only shopping he does in his entire life, that is shopping for books. He also uses Kindle as well as audiobooks, so very much with the time. And no wonder personality like Dr. Koletkar has got several honors and awards. Just to name few: the Rotary International Award for Service Above Self, and many other awards from social organizations or medical organizations. The special documentary was made in his honors by Mumbai Doordarshan in year 2001. So we have got a very multi-talented, multifaceted personality here to speak to all of you. Welcome, Dr. Ullas Koletkar. And thank you very much for accepting our invitation and taking out time from your very busy schedule. I mean it. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, should I start?
Yes, please. Yes, please.
Yeah, give me a few seconds for loading the presentation. Yeah. Good afternoon, friends. Actually, I'm humbled and honored by a very generous introduction given by Principal Manjari Gharat. Friends, first of all, I must thank you for a very different type of subject. Such a huge audience has been organized, and I must thank Principal Manjari Gharat of Kundani College as well as the IPA organizers. And I know this is a little bit different topic, difficult topic. I'm dealing it for the first time on this topic, even though I'm a little voracious reader and I like reading. Friends, I titled it as a read today, lead tomorrow. Now you might be wondering that we are not leaders and then why we should be reading. Today the observation was absolutely right when Professor Manjari said that today's students, why students, even the professors also, I have seen that they read only the newspapers or the bills which are presented to them at home, whether it's a electricity bill or the water bill and a society bill and so many other bills. They accept that they don't read anything, maybe the WhatsApp messages. But friends, all of you, you are leaders at some or other time, maybe in the past, now or future. You may not be a political leader, you may not be a leader of the society, you may not be a leader of a Indian Pharmaceutical Association or the API, but you are definitely, you could be, some of you might be a leader of your own housing society. If not, at least you will be leader of your own house. And there also I always say that if the spouse is dominant and then you are not leading your own house, maybe you have to lead your own life. So all of us by default, we are supposed to be the leader of our own life. Now, this particular leadership, how one gets a leadership and how the best leadership we can develop. Perhaps it is the attitude of the leadership which is most important, and everybody knows that the attitude defines the where he or she stands in his life. So the best possible attitude can be developed provided you have got four leadership qualities. Now, these four leadership qualities, I always maintain that first and foremost, a leader should be able to peep into the future. Having taken lessons from the present as well as from the past, he should be able to look ahead. What could be there after 1 year or 1.5 year or 2 years down the line, 5 years, 10 years, and that is a visionary leader. And that particular vision might come only if he has got a passion in his heart to lead his own life, along with a mission which he is supposed to be carrying out throughout his life. And whatever he reads, whatever he learns, whatever passion he has got, he has to put it into the action. So vision, mission, passion, and action, they are the four aspects of an ideal leadership. How do you develop that particular leadership? One of the best tool, obviously, is the reading. Even the government of India or all the governments across the world, they have already said time and again that the person must be having the capabilities of 3R. The first R is a reading, second one R is a writing, and the third one is a arithmetic. So these 3R capacities, if you develop well, then there is a possibility that you can lead your life very successfully. And that is why, friends, maybe this person who has been a leader of his lifetime, a leader of that particular era, the leader par excellence on whose life more than 40 lakhs of different books have been written so far. I am talking about the King Napoleon Bonaparte, who said once that show me a family of readers and I will show you the people who move the world. It is so succinct, so specific that he told that those are the readers who can really lead the people or they lead the world. And friends, obviously, not to forget that the reading is so important that 7,500 years before, once prince was there. This prince was taken to a guru of a king. The king himself brought him over there because the prince did not want to educate himself. He did not want to go to the school or colleges or read the scriptures. He said that I am born prince and some or other day I am going to be the king. So by default, if I am going to get the kingship, then why should be I reading and educate myself and strain myself, put a stress on myself? The king said, no, the guru will explain to you. And the guru told him these four lines. Jnanavan eva sukhavan. You have to acquire the knowledge because the knowledge will make you happy. Jnanavan eva balavan. The knowledge will make you very powerful. As said by Peter Drucker that the 21st century will be driven by the knowledge workers, it is coming so true that those who have got a knowledge, they are driving the world. Look at the Bill Gates, he has got a specific knowledge, he is driving the world. Look at the Jeff Bezos, he has got a specific knowledge, he is driving the world. Look at Apple head then, late Steve Jobs, he had a knowledge of certain things and that is why he was so powerful. Jnanavan eva jivati, if you have got a knowledge, then that person only lives really his life or her life. Tasmat jnanavayobhav. And therefore the prince was advised to join the education, join that school or the Gurukul, and then subsequently everybody knows that that particular prince evolved later on as Lord Rama. This is the quote by Vasishtha in Yoga Vasishtha. So friends, that's the importance of acquiring the knowledge. And then one of the best thing to acquire, the best tool to acquire this particular knowledge is obviously as the social reformer, contemporary of Lokmanya Tilakji, a well-known personality then, Gopal Ganesh Agarkar. He said there are 5 ways to acquire the knowledge. The first one important thing is avalokan. By sheer observation, you can, to some extent, you can acquire the knowledge. I will take you to a remote place in the United Kingdom, Britain then, Great Britain. And in one corner of the Britain, early morning, one 8-year-old boy is observing very keenly he's observing one kettle. His mother had kept it for the preparation of the tea, and the tea water was boiling, and then the steam was accumulating, and then gradually that lid was lifted. With a great astonishment, this person or this child was looking at that particular lid, and then he started observing avalokan, not for that particular day, but days and days and months, and he started working out. 25 years afterward, there was the first steam engine which was running on the tracks of United Kingdom, thanks to James Watt, that 8-year-old child, with his keen observation. There was another child in Britain who was sitting in a garden, and he saw one apple falling down, and instead of like an ordinary child running for it and then eating the apple, he was wondering that why apple fell down and why it did not go up. And then the laws of gravity came into the picture, and he discovered those laws. All of we know Sir Isaac Newton, the way genius he was. Friends, avalokan is one of the most important tool to acquire the knowledge. And then Agarkar was talking also about the debate. I think all of us, we are very well conversant, particularly in Maharashtra and that also in India. Everybody is very famous for the debates. So we need not worry about what debate means. Manan is obviously whatever we are reading, whatever we are observing, we have to think about it. And then Chintan, one has to understand whatever we have read, whatever we have seen, that particular Manan, after we read it, after we understand it, you have to really put it into the practice, and that is a Chintan. So Manan, Chintan, Avalokan and Vaad, we can understand. But the most important tool which Agarkar pointed out was Vachan, that is a reading. So he pointed out again and again, and so also Tilakji, that Vachan or the reading is the most important tool to develop the personality as well as to develop the leadership quality. And friends, that is why how many times the question comes that how many times I should be reading in a day. Sant Ramdas, 375 years before, 375 years before, he said, Disa maji kahi tari te lihave. Every day you have to write something or other, and not your curricular studies, because that you are as such you are supposed to write. But beyond that curricular studies, you have to write something else. So Disa maji kahitari te lihave, prasangi akhandita vachit jave. Every now and then, whenever you get time, keep on reading. What you should read, how you should read, when you should read. We are going to tackle these matters in a short period of time now. But friends, every day you have to write something, every day you have to read something. You look at your own professor, Professor Manjari Gharat, as I know her. Every day she will write something, every day she will read something. Every 15 days now there are articles which are published. Even in this COVID-19 hit times also, in Lok Sabha she will write a beautiful article to educate the people about what is the medicine, how one should be using medicine, what is not medicine, what are fake medicines, and so many aspects of this pharmacy have been outlined in a simple language for the people to understand. So Disa माझी काहीतरी ते लिहावे, प्रसंगी अखंडित वाचित जावे. And friends, that is why very aptly this has been now explained, that why one should be reading, why at all I should read. That's a big question, and that's a Sanatan question. From time and again, people are asking this particular question. From Rama onwards, everybody has asked why I should be read, why I should educate myself. Look at this person, Jim Rohn. Jim Rohn had been an American entrepreneur, author. He had mentored people like Brian Tracy, and you might have read some of the beautiful books written by Brian Tracy and also Tony Robbins. So he is the mentor of these people. And Jim Rohn said that reading is so important that unless you read, you really cannot progress. If you want to uplift yourself, you have to read. This is a clue. This was taken way before, even a period before Jim Rohn's, by one person who was a multi-millionaire or a billionaire. Today we know that the Bill Gates is the richest person in the world, or Jack Ma has been one of the richest person in the world, or Warren Buffett has been one of the richest person in the world. But all these people put together, whatever wealth is calculated today, even double or triple was the wealth of one person who laid the foundation of the American industry, Andrew Carnegie. Now, Andrew Carnegie, somewhere around 1900, he sold his total empire, industrial empire, and in one shot from JP Morgan, then the financiers, he got a check of 700 million US dollars. What did he do with that? His dream was to open a library in each and every American village, and he did so. Now, why he did so? Because he believed in reading, and the reading had changed the American culture over a period of time. It had changed the culture of the Europe over a period of time, and it had changed the culture of then Hindustan or India, as we'll see it again now. So why read? There are a number of reasons what the modern medicine has investigated that what happens exactly when you read. And modern medicine has done these particular studies even with the functional MRI of the brain. And they have shown conclusively that the reading changes your structure of the brain. So visual inputs are perhaps the most important from the brain. We get visual inputs, you get kinesthetic inputs by touch. We get inputs from the auditory inputs by listening. We get also input from our olfactory bulb, that is through the nose. We get the smells, and we also through the tongue, through the taste. So there are 5 ways in which we get the inputs. But the 70 to 80% of our all inputs are driven by the visual activity, and the visual activity almost drives our sensory system. And that is why visual inputs are very important. So whatever avalokan is there is very important, and also whatever vachan is there or the reading is there also very important. That is why you must read. Now it makes you more empathetic because we come to know so many happenings in the world. As Gautam Buddha said, that there is a lot of sorrow, a lot of griefs in the world, and these all sorrows and griefs are man-made, and therefore they can be corrected, and therefore it is a duty of a sensitive human being to correct the suffering of the human being. So it makes you more empathetic, it improves your emotional quotient. This particular concept has been very much elaborated by Daniel Goleman in the recent times, also elaborated by Rasanta Ramdas in Dasbodh, that it makes you more empathetic. You can start understanding people in a better way. So this is one of the best tools even for the professors to understand the students and for the students to understand the professor. Third important thing, it develops and opens the mind. Friends, as all of us, we know that the mind is just like a parachute, and the parachute works only when it opens, otherwise it's a close. So to open your mind, you have to develop this habit of reading. Important thing which modern medicine has shown after the investigation and after the functional MRI studies, and there are a lot of groups all over the world, these studies have been carried out, that there is some phenomena called as a neuroplasticity. There was a time when we used to say that by 3 to 5 years the child develops the full brain, and subsequently the brain doesn't grow. But now what people have shown that yes, up to 5 years or 8 years the brain structurally, that's a total volume, it does grow that particular way. Number of neurons, they stay constant after that. In fact, they keep on decreasing over a period of time from the age of 5 to 8 years. But friends, what develops more as the age advances is a synaptic connectivity between the various neurons. And that is why more and more you read, more and more you acquire the knowledge, your brain becomes more and more functional. In fact, reading is a very good activity to prevent certain diseases like Alzheimer. Those who keep on doing this mental calisthenics in terms of, for example, there are sudokus and so many other things which happen after reading, these things can increase the neuroplasticity. So these are the first 4 valid reasons why we should be reading. Also, friends, there are other effects also, like it reduces the stress by reading the novels, by reading the jokes, by reading the funny things. There's so many things. So it can reduce your stress, and the modern life is full of stress. It induces a better sleep. Reading for 6 to 8 minutes before the sleep, before going to sleep, this has been observed in a very big study of students as well as the other people at Sussex. They have shown conclusively that induces sleep in a better way. It increases the self-esteem. Abraham Maslow, a very famous writer and a psychologist, an author. So he said there are 5 things which are necessary in the human life, and he describes it in a pyramidal fashion. So at the base of the pyramid, you have got a basic needs like my hunger and my sleep and my sex and everything. Then beyond that, there is something like a safety and a security, which I am always fond of. I should be secure, my family should be secure. The third thing which comes is the social connect, and then comes what he talks about the self-esteem and the self-actualization. Whatever my potential is there, will I get a chance to express that particular potential and then blossom my personality to the fullest? So that is a self-actualization. Now, for that self-esteem development, also the reading helps. It improves obviously the communication skills because it improves the vocabulary. It increases the cognitive processes which are involved in the vocabulary and the mathematics, and therefore communication skills are also much, much better. It increases the focus and the imagination and the writing skills. It improves the relationships. So there are all the advantage of reading, and that is why we must read. Friends, also this is very important to know what are the effects of reading. What does it make you after the reading? So there are certain reasons why we should be reading, but then why we should be reading? Personally, I feel that yes, many of you might have heard of Edward de Bono and his concept of lateral thinking. So one particular question, there are many, many answers. It's not always 1 plus 1 is 2, but as the modern physics says, the quantum physics says that 1 plus 1 could be little less than 2 or could be little more than 2. There are various options, various answers which are or choices which are available for this particular phenomena. So there are 6 thinking hats concept had been put forward by Edward de Bono, the lateral thinking person, and he said that for all thinking processes, people should develop these 6 thinking hats. The first one is a white thinking hat, and a white thinking hat is thinking about data, collection of the information and the analysis. And then he talks about the black thinking hat, and that is a critical appraisal of self as well as others. And then he's talking about a red thinking hat, that is having an emotional quotient and then looking at handling the other people with the heart and handling ourselves only with the brain. And then he talks about the green hat, and then he is talking about that particular green hat which is an innovative hat or a creative hat, which like a very famous Galileo was wearing this particular hat, green hat. Or we had Leonardo da Vinci, the very famous person who had 250 IQ. So that particular person had a green thinking hat, and then a blue thinking hat and a yellow thinking hat. So 6 thinking hats can be developed with the help of reading, and that's a great advantage of reading. Frederick Douglass, who happened to be the American social reformer and abolitionist, he led the movement for the blacks against the white, and he was typically anti-slavery activist. He's an author, and he was one of the finest orator of his time. So he himself was a slave and came out of that particular slavery and took this particular mission. So he said that once you learn to read, you will be forever free. You are not following any particular doctrine. You are not under control of a particular thought, because you are exposed by reading, you are exposed to multiple thoughts. So you are a free thinker. You become truly Socrates over a period of time, that one who believes only in the truth and then the search for the truth. So Frederick Douglass very correctly put it that what could be the effect of this reading. Katrina Meyer, Manjari mentioned some time before that this is a portable magic. Now, Katrina Meyer, she had been a writer and doctorate in metaphysics. Look at what she is talking about the book. Book is a magical thing that lets you travel so far away places without ever leaving your chair. Now our Zoom meetings have shown us that yes, I could be in US, I could be in UK, I could be in Argentina, I could be at anywhere, I could be in Africa. Without leaving my chair, I can communicate with the people, talk to them, develop my emotional connect with those people, develop the various projects. The other day I was with one of the DRDO person, and he said that all those meetings which we used to hold personally by traveling to the various places. Now I'm holding in my own room by just logging on into the Zoom or some digital platform. And we have developed the project so strong and so fast that nobody could believe. This is one of the DRDO executive who was sharing with us. So Katrina Meyer was absolutely right when she said that the book is a magical thing that lets you travel so far away places without ever leaving your chair. And that's a beauty. And that's the effect of reading, friends. Look at Carl Sagan. Now, what did he say? Carl Sagan, a very famous American astronomer, cosmologist, astrophysicist, and a science communicator. There are few people like Carl Sagan, or even to that extent, I would say Arthur Clarke, Asimov, who took science to the common people. And in the modern day times in Maharashtra, we also say that your Professor Manjari Gharat is also doing the same thing, taking the science to the common people, telling them what pharmacy is. So Carl Sagan, astrophysicist, he took the science to the people and he said that one glance at the book and you hear the voice of another person, perhaps someone dead for 1000 years. To read is a voice through the time. So I have gone to Bhagwan Sri Krishna 5000 years before whenever I read Bhagavad Gita. And I'm talking to Vasishtha whenever I have gone 7,500 years before, and I'm talking to Vasishtha through Yoga Vasishtha, or reading Ramayana, Valmiki Ramayana few thousand years before. And I go to Iliad few thousand years before when the Homer wrote this. So friends, it is possible to connect to the people and their thought few thousand years before just by taking this particular voice. That is a reading voice. And that's what Carl Sagan is pointing towards. Very correctly, Ralph Waldo Emerson said the effect of a reading when he said that if you encounter a man of a rare intellect, we should ask him what books he reads. And then you will be able to tell the quality of his intellect, the quality of his thought, the quality of his attitude, and the quality of his altitude and where he stands as a leader. So Ralph Waldo Emerson, who was a philosopher, the American essayist, who laid the foundation of the American philosophy or the modern day philosophy, quoted very widely everywhere. Many of his sayings have become the quotes, lifetime quotes, Ralph Waldo Emerson. So he is talking about all these reading business. How to read? My next question, it comes to my mind that yes, friends, it is also important that not only I should be knowing that reading is a must, reading 24 hours is also a must, or reading every now and then is a must. Reading has got certain effects on the brain, and reading produces certain astonishing effects. But I must know how to read. It's not only question of just reading in a simplistic fashion. There are different ways. One way is a scanning, going through rapidly. This particular scanning method is possible provided you know the subject. So also the scheming. That means scheming is something like, for example, there is a curd and you try to prepare a buttermilk. So you churn it, and that particular buttermilk, through that, the gradually the navaneet or the butter comes up and then it floats. That's a scheming. So similarly, you churn that particular reading and then whatever you want to extract, only that thing is taken up. So that is a scheming. Very extensive reading, intensive or a deep reading of a particular subject, which we do normally whenever you are studying for a particular subject, appearing for your PhD exams or the MPhil exams. So even for our MBBS and MD exam, we had to study a little bit intensive and extensive type of study, which we used to do. There is something like active study and a passive reading and active reading. So obviously, friends, very classical example of initially the passive reading was Helen Keller, when at the age of 1.5 years, she almost lost 3 of her 5 major senses. She was not able to see, she was not able to hear, and she was not able to speak. And then she came across a very special teacher, Anna Sullivan, and Anna Sullivan herself was a partially blind. And then she adopted a different method of teaching her the reading, and that is by touching her. So by touching and writing the letters on her hand and simultaneously giving her a kinesthetic experience, she could write the first letter water on her hand, when on the other hand the water was flowing, the cold water was flowing. And that is how Helen Keller could correlate what do you mean by this letter water and what is actual water. So that is a passive type of training resulted into the active. So much so that later on she appeared through the Harvard School, the Harvard University, Radcliffe University, and then she stood first in her examinations. So that is the active reading. Obviously, the time of the reading is also very, very important. That's the best time which is suitable for you. There are many people, they find in the olden days that the early morning period is the best to read because there is nobody to disturb, and then whatever you read, you can retain. But some of the people nowadays, they find the nights are also so beautiful. That is, you read at that particular time, and the retention factor is very good because there are no disturbances, no phone call. And if you switch off particularly your WhatsApp, then you are at peace, and then you can keep on reading. Friends, astonishing thing obviously about the human mind is the speed of reading. Now, the speed of reading for ordinary people like you and me, we are all mental readers because simultaneously we keep on thinking. So it reduces the time. It reduces the speed of reading. So our normally speed is 250 words per minute. But there are certain auditory readers. Now, these are the skillful readers, and they develop a large vocabulary. If they have got a large vocabulary, then they can literally, so rapidly, they can read the book 450 words per minute. But there are better readers than that. That is, those are called as a visual readers. But they are actually not reading the words, but they read only ideas. That is how one is visual readers. We are able to complete so many books. I find myself somewhere around that particular visual reader concept because I only go through the various ideas. That is why I'm able to read till this time about 1,500 books out of all my 3,500 books, which I must have skimmed or scanned. Proficient reader, they are simultaneously, their cognitive function is also very good. So they read and they know, their comprehension is also very good. So that is a proficient reader. Look at these 2 3 people who are having extraordinary capabilities. JFK, the very famous American leader who is quoted every now and then, very charismatic leader of his time, and the JFK speed of reading was 1200 words per minute. Spencer Reed is a fictional character in one of the crime serials which have been shown on American TV, Criminal Minds. You may have heard of him, Spencer Reed. And Spencer Reed had been working for the FBI. Obviously, this is a fictional character, but his speeding, his IQ is supposed to be 187, and his reading speed is 20,000 words per minute. The actual person, Howard Spiegelberg, he can read 80 pages per minute. And then there have been a Maria Teresa who had been from Philippines, and her latest Guinness Book record is 80,000 words per minute. So that's a speed reading, and there are various techniques which are available, and one can definitely go through it at leisure time. Friends, reading is a supreme pleasure. Reading is a supreme pleasure. Look at this particular scene. That it's a rainy season, the breezes are there, the wind is blowing, and it's a cold weather, and you are sitting just across, and there is a glass in between you and that particular wind and the rain, or you are sitting in a shaded area in a terrace, and there is a cup of tea with a book. I think that's a supreme pleasure one can be having. Nothing best can happen. Or you could be having a situation like what our famous Marathi writer late Dadi Madgulkar has written in one of his beautiful article, Bamanacha Patra. Now, in that Bamanacha Patra, this is a place in his outdoors or somewhere in the farm, and his beautiful place has been created where he's absolutely silent, nobody is around, and then he keeps on reading and writing. And that's the ultimate pleasure, friends, as far as the reading is considered. And that is why, friends, Benjamin Franklin said that very famous, obviously, the author, the statesman, and the scientist, and the thinker, and who could really give some shape to the American culture and American thinking, Benjamin Franklin, who started his career as a very small little boy. He did not have a single penny in his pocket, and he used to work in a Raddiwala shop. And then that is how he started develop a habit of reading. The person who deserves the most pity is a lonesome one on a rainy day who does not know how to read. And that's a Benjamin Franklin. Friends, that's the beauty of reading in a particular circumstances at a particular time. Look at this George Louis Borges. Now, this George Louis Borges, he said that I have always imagined that a paradise will be a kind of library. And that's really the reader's paradise would be only in the library at no other place. Look at this, some paradises which we had, and unfortunately we lost over a period of time. This is the Takshila University, which is only a now small mound in Pakistan, present day Pakistan at Peshawar. 600 and BC to 500 and AD, there was a beautiful university at that particular time. And who were the alumni of this particular university? Charak. Every now and then, modern day Ayurvedacharya or the olden days Ayurvedacharya, they will refer to certain people. One of the people is Charak, another one is Sushrut, the third one is Dhanvantari. And then we have got a lot of other Ayurvedacharya. But Charak reigns supreme in Ayurveda. He is an alumni of this particular university. Arya Chanakya, who could gather together all those sovereign small little states over there, put them under one umbrella of Magadha, and then he created a phenomena called Chandragupta Maurya, and that is why the Alexander the Great, who could not cross Sindhu and he had to go back to the Greece, and his dream remained halfway only to conquer the world. That's a Chanakya. Panini, who laid the foundation of the Indian grammar or Sanskrit grammar, and these are all Chandragupta Maurya, Panini, Chanakya, Charaka. They're all from this Takshila University. Unfortunately, these were destroyed by Hun with a barbarous intention. They just destroyed the library, they just destroyed the university. And then look at this particular malady in our own Bihar at Rajgir, Nalanda University, which was reigning supreme university in the world 500 AD to almost 1200 AD, where it was destroyed by Bakhtiyar Khilji. 9 million books were burnt. This is the biggest shocker, the biggest destruction, even not paralleled by Hiroshima and Nagasaki, because they had destroyed the culture, Indian culture. Bakhtiyar Khilji had destroyed the culture. 9 million books they were burning for 3 months. And all Indians at that time, they were sitting idle and they were crying. That's all. Nothing. So friends, these are the real paradises we had. Now we want to have a replica of those paradises. This is the place here on the way. This is at Brecknockshire in Wales. Maybe I do not know, Professor Manjari Gharat might have visited this while visiting UK. This population of this particular town or village is only 1500. But there are books which are almost 15 lakhs. Books everywhere in the village, and from all over the world, people flock around to get the old books, new books, copies of the books, rare books. This is a here on the way. There's a small village. Here I've shown one building over there. The compound of the building is also harboring a library. And that's a beauty. It's a reader's paradise. So when I was describing the paradise, and then I was talking about Borges, who happened to be a Spanish language legend, Argentine short essay writer, story writer, and an essayist and a poet, and a universal literature phenomena. When he was talking about the paradise, that is a paradise. This is a Calcutta book fair called the Boimela, where since 1976, almost every year it is attended by 20 lakhs of people. This is held at Salt Lake Central Park. So this is a reader's paradise. Now in Maharashtra, we have tried to create this on a smaller version of all these things at Bhilar near Panchgani, where thanks to Vinodji Tavde and Devendraji Fadnis, and in the month of May 2017, they opened this particular village called as a village of books, Bhilar. Only 15,000 books right now, and then it is gradually increasing. The Kuala Lumpur, a small country like Malaysia, it is now the world book capital. So that's a paradise for the readers. Then friends, as correctly described by Garrison Keillor, and the Garrison Keillor, yes, when they describe that book is a gift, you can open again and again. And the Garrison Keillor is an American writer, storyteller, humorist, radio personality, he was running Minnesota personal radio channel, community radio channel for 46 years, long years. So his opinion is the most valued opinion when he's talking about a thing. The book is a gift. You can always open again and again, unlike other gifts which you can just consume and finish it off. So friends, we always like to gift a book. Whenever you go and want to gift a book to somebody, that's one of the best book you can give, best gift you can give. And that is why Becca Fitzpatrick, she said that yes, she is an American writer. A very famous Hush's series, if you have at all you have laid your hands on that, are some of the novels like Crescendo or The Silence, the beautiful novels. So she used to read under covers in bed in the flashlight. And that's a amazing, you can say, Becca, that when she writes that reading a good book in silence is like, that's a whole personal experience. It's like eating a chocolate for the rest of your life and never getting fat. You will find out so many fitness freak and they are telling you that don't eat chocolate because it can produce so many blah, 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 blah things, not good for diabetes, not good for obesity. But if you want to really eat a chocolate and not get fat or not get diabetes, perhaps reading a book in silence, a good book, is just like eating chocolate. Laura Bush, the spouse of George W. Bush, president, American president then. So she has written, she is an educationist also. The power of a book lies in its power to turn a solitary act into a shared vision. And that's what has happened in the Vietnam War. That is what has happened even in India, at so many other places. That this is the power of a book which can convert a solitary act into a shared vision. Chale jao. Whatever Gandhiji used to write and then read by millions of the people in India, ultimately it turned into a movement from 1942 onwards, and in 47 the Britishers had to vacate our place or vacate India. So that's the power of a book. And then Axel Marazi. Axel Marazi is an Argentinian actor, very famous actor. So the books we read answer questions we did not even know that existed. So many questions which are never heard, so many problems which are never heard, so many universes which are never seen, so many worlds which are never seen. We come to know all these things just by reading the books. The other day, one lady gynecologist, she has written a beautiful book, and I was reading that. She's harboring from Bihar, and she went to a gynec hospital as a trainee over there, and she writes her experience. Haan, ye mumkin hai. That's a book which is available on Amazon, which you must read. When for the first day she went to the gynec ward, there were dogs everywhere, and she was astonished that in a medical scene, how do we see all these things? But then gradually she took a lead and then she improved the situation, similar to what Amtes have done in near Nagpur, or what Abhay Bangji has done in Gadchiroli. So the books we read answer questions we did not even know existed. Ha, ye mumkin hai. This is possible. It is possible. We know now. Only when I read such type of books, I feel that this is possible. Friends, that is why Charles William Eliot, who happens to be belonging to the very famous Eliot families, and Charles Eliot William or Charles Williams Eliot, he was Harvard president. He took the post of Harvard president in 1869, and at that particular time, the Harvard was already a prominent college, but he turned that prominent college into preeminent research university of America. Today, Harvard, I think even the smallest of the child also will be able to tell Harvard, yes, I know something about it. So the books are the quietest and the most constant of friends. They are the most accessible and the wisest of the counselors and the most patient of the teacher. So if you want a teacher and a student and a friend and a counselor all bundled up in one, approach any good book. And that's a very strong message which Charles William Eliot has given. And friends, that is why the Rachel Anders, she writes beautiful blogs. So in the blog, she says that the journey of a lifetime starts with turning of a page. I will just add one more thing and then end my speech. Whatever we have read, whatever we have understood, but ultimately we have to put it into the action and use for the community. There's a beautiful Sanskrit shloka which tells me, Adnebhyo Granthina Shrestha. Those who are not able to read, as compared to them, those people who are able to read, adnebhyo granthina shrestha granthina, those are able to read, they are better. Grantibhyo dharinovara, as compared to the people who are only reading and not retaining anything, people who retain, they are a step better. Adnebhyo granthina shrestha grantibhyo dharinovara, dharibhyo jnaninovara. Those who are able to convert that particular reading and retention into understanding and a knowledge, they are much, much better. But dharibhyo grantebhyo dharinovara, dharibhyo vyavasayina. Those who are able to understand, those who are able to convert it into a jnana, those who put it into the practice, they are the best of the people. So reading is the first step of development of a leadership of any type, anywhere, anytime. But putting whatever you have read into the action is the ultimate goal all of us we should be harboring. Thank you. A very good reading across your life now subsequently, and I am sure that the reading will help you into developing a better personality, and then you will be of some other use to our nation. Wish you best of luck. Thank you. Over to you, Principal Manjari.
Yes, yes. Thank you, Doctor. What a wonderful lecture. It was really mesmerizing, and I think it was very convincing that the journey of a lifetime starts with a turning of a page. And you have convinced us with not only the historic references, but also the modern science, what modern science tells us about the books, the reading, and reading, how it should, turn into, translate into the action ultimately, what we read. And actually, it is really motivating and inspiring for the students to listen from you how the reading is going to build their life. Thank you so much. It was really a wonderful lecture. I'm sure our students have some questions.
Sure, sure. Yeah.
If some of the questions we can take, Doctor, is it okay?
Yeah. Absolutely, no problem.
Yeah. So any questions, students, or you can put it in the chat, or you can unmute yourself and ask Pradnya.
Yes, ma'am. Yes. So before going to ask some questions, to read out some questions which are given by the students, I would like to thank you so much for accepting our request and for being here today in spite of your hectic schedule. We know that how much busy you are, but I am so happy that Manjari ma'am had bring you, I mean, the right person for the right day to know, to give us the right information on this very special day. Thank you so much, ma'am. And yes, sir, Vilas sir, it's really a great pleasure for us to listen your words and your expert suggestions on reading books and made us more aware and broaden our horizons. Sir. Really, you had done a commendable job, and we'll definitely will take your words into practice. And before that question, and yes, I'm having something to say regarding this day, as IPSF is also having some importance because, as mentioned initially today, today we are having three important occasions which are so special, nothing but World Students Day, Reading Inspiration Day, uh, and Global Hand Washing Day. So World Students Day, which is celebrated on commemorate the birth anniversary of APJ Abdul Kalam sir, and UNO had declared on in 2010 as World Students Day to honor his efforts on promoting education. So we, the team of Student Forum, would like to feel proud to say that our forum was inaugurated by him on 16th August 2008 by the same person, and we are so blessed to be in this, which is initiated by such a great man. And on this note, I would like to thank Dr. B. Suresh, President PCI, and Dr. T.V. Narayana, National President IPA, and also Rao Vadlamudi sir, Commonwealth Arms Association President, for making that happen on that very special day. And also today is also Vachan Prerna Divas, that is nothing but Reading Inspiration Day. And so no words to say for me, as already our today's speaker done a great job on that.
Yes.
Whereas
thank you, Pradnya, and thank you for reminding us that Dr. Abdul Kalam was the one who actually launched this IPS Students Forum. So his blessings are with you. And I was very fortunate to be part of that program. And thanks to B. Suresh sir Priolkar sir, Dr. Vadlamuri Rao.
There are two questions which I could see in the chat box. The
Yes.
first question I would like to take up and answer is that are the audio books equally effective? Yes, it depends on, like, for example, if you are too busy in your work or traveling from one place to another, or maybe there are some visual handicap is there, or maybe, for example, you do not have a physical book to carry, then perhaps the audio books are also a very good option. But also it depends upon the type of personality which you have got. Say, for example, your development is based on basically visual inputs, and then you are more keen to the visual stimulations, then you should go for the actual visual books. That means reading a book. But suppose you are an auditory person, that rather than reading, you are able to understand more by listening, then the auditory books are excellent. So that is where again the auditory books come into picture. Nowadays, if you look at the Western people, then their style is mainly the auditory books. For simple reason, they are traveling here and there, and their cars are also fitted with such type of equipment. So auditory books are a better option for them. But for you or for me, I particularly, I do not like the auditory books. I like to read a matter, and then only I'm able to absorb. So it depends on your personality. The second question I would like to take, that which books you will recommend. See, there are two ways to look at it. One, for what you want to read. Suppose, for example, now you want to deliver a lecture, then obviously you have got a specific reading, and then specifically for that particular subject you have to just scan through the various books and then take out the material. Like when suppose I was preparing this particular lecture, when your principal gave me this particular topic, even though I'm a reader, I had to prepare that particular subject. So my thought process, I had to prepare a sort of a storybook like thing, and then insert the images. So my research was there to some extent. So there the reading is totally different for a subject reading. But suppose, for example, you are just reading for that purpose of reading, like understanding the whole universe, understanding the life and all. So that is called the motivational or the personal motivational, personal development books. So there's a whole lot of personal development books. I would strongly recommend to begin with certain series, like for example, the Robin Sharma is one of my favorite author, and he has written some beautiful books. Though he is repetitive, like every now and then he will keep on saying the same thing through the different books. But it's the first book, The Monk Who Sold His Ferrari. So that is a beautiful book which all of you must procure a copy, and then maybe on Amazon you can get the ebook and then read, or physical copy, the way you like it. And then subsequently he has written series of books which are available. So those things, I think that's the first to begin with. Then obviously in the present circumstances, there are some books written by Indian authors like Shiv Khera. So beautiful books written by him. Brian Tracy, whom I referred to, and then Tony Robbins. These are all motivational books which people have written. Obviously, you have got little different inclination. Then nowadays, the video books or the video clips are also available, which are extremely motivating and informative. One of the recent series which I happen to read is Swami Mukundananda. It's a beautiful discourses which he give on the lifetime lessons. And I personally feel that a young students, why young, even everybody else, they should listen to these video clips which are of a length between 5 minutes to about 15-20 minutes, not more than that. And you can definitely spare time every day, 5 or 10 minutes, and listen to that particular video clip. It gives you life lessons. So these are some of the books. Before really dwelling into depth and then diving into the depth, and then there are some other books, higher books, which you can definitely refer to, which are normally we call it as only reference books, but these are some of the extraordinary books. But to begin with, some of these motivational books, personal development books, which you can always begin with, which I have referred to. Financial matters, I always say that most of the Indians, we do not really look into the financial matters. We are always afraid, don't talk about the money, and particularly the youngsters, we are never told at home. So books by Robert Kiyosaki, for example, the series of books which are available, and it is called the Rich Dad Poor Dad series. So his first book was the Rich Dad Poor Dad. Just on that book he became a millionaire. Try to understand this by selling this particular book. So Rich Dad Poor Dad series, and then subsequently he had got a lot of books on investment. So those books are also extremely good to procure a copy and keep with you and keep on reading. That gives only one aspect of the life, and that is the financial management. Then obviously there are many other books which are trying to correlate. The classical philosophy book which also gives you life lesson, I like particularly one book is a Tao Te Ching. Now Tao Te Ching is perhaps written by Lao Tzu about 450 years before the Christ. That was a time that is Gautam Buddha's contemporary, and those things he has beautifully. There are 81 poems are there, but each and every poem will stimulate you and will take you to the depths of your mind, and then you try to understand that particular poem. There are a lot of literature available on Tao Te Ching. Art of War, for example, Sun Tzu. The Art of War is also one of the beautiful book available now in the market, written few thousand years before, particularly developing the war strategy applied now to the business strategy. So that also is very good for those people who are entering into the business. The Art of War by Sun Tzu. And then obviously the dialects which are available from the various Greek philosophers, Roman philosophers. These are small dialects which are available. So I think those also we can read. So this is on a little, you can say, the life lessons which could be available. Apart from certain contemporary readings like whatever for the entertainment purpose.
Sir, and one more question was also there, like how to develop the habit of reading, because someone will get bored after 2 to 3 days of reading or starting a book. So someone is asking like suggestions,
Yes,
how to develop.
this is the habit, which is we say that anything which you do for 21 days, you inculcate that particular habit into your mind, and then you keep on doing it after 21 days. So 21 days, this is the period proven by the modern psychologists also. Anything you do for 21 days, like for example, I decide that okay, I'm not a tea drinker or a coffee drinker. Every day morning I will get up and have a cup of coffee. 21 days I do it. On 22nd day, by default you will drink a cup of coffee. Okay, because that habit is developed now. A fitness freak, I really refrain from doing any sort of exercise, but then 10 minutes every day, small little habit, 10 minutes. Then gradually after 21 days, I get sort of addicted to that particular habit, and it becomes a habit of my life. And then you keep on doing exercise. So don't try to read too much every day for a few days and then forget about it. Rather than that, I would advise that you read maybe for 5 minutes, 7 minutes, 8 minutes, but then every day at a particular time in a particular place. If you try to do that, that place itself and the environment itself, Mahol itself will stimulate you to read. And then after 21 days, you will find yourself in a reading mode all the time. So then every day you will keep on reading. Develop that particular habit.
Yes, that's great. And I'm really inspiring students, and I'm very happy with the questions. And just to add to what Doctor you have said, how to develop the reading habit, I feel you also mentioned it during your talk. The one thing is very important that we switch off our smartphone for a while and then we start reading, because every time you reach a book, you want to read something, your phone attracts you and distracts you. So for some time, just put the phone on the flight mode, students, and then start reading. And I'm sure you will be able to read and concentrate on it. So there won't be any distractions.
Yes. Sir, and there is one more question. In this advanced era, where technology is easily accessible, the same content of the book can be concised into a series of videos, which could save time and energy, etc. Is it suggestible or not?
Yeah, I told you that even the video clips, for example, the video books now, people are thinking about that. That is also a very good option, particularly when, say, philosophical lectures which are delivered, many times it become easy to digest if you have got a visual images also incorporated along with that. So those books, even for example, I always say that rather than having a library, I am just wondering, suppose for example, I would have been born say 20 years later as compared to when I was born, or maybe 25 years later. Today I would have got only the library carrying in a Kindle. I have got a Kindle, latest Kindle available with me, and then it also carries about 100-150 books. But friends, to carry a library and to maintain is a really difficult thing, particularly all the environmental things, and then there are termites and all sort of things are happening everywhere to maintain a book. Now look at a scenario. Your principal hails from a place called Sangli in Maharashtra, and the Sangli had a water deluge last year. They had a beautiful library at Sangli, which was harboring 90,000 books. 90,000 books, very rare books. In the water deluge, everything is swept away. Now, suppose they would have been able to do it in a digital library fashion, then perhaps everything that particular was available would have been made available even now also. Even Takshila and Nalanda, 9 million books is something phenomenal. And those 9 million books are just burned by that bugger, Bakhtiyar Khilji, for no reason. So those would have been available. So the modern technology is really a boon. It's not a bane, it is a boon. The way we use it is very, very important. I'm able to carry my Kindle in a small pocket or even my laptop bag and then take it everywhere. Those 100 books are there with me all the time. I open whichever I'm able to highlight, I'm able to retrieve any particular word. There is a dictionary available. Immediately I press on that particular word and dictionary opens. There's so many things which happen with the modern technology. They're very nice. So video clips also, I personally feel that is a day will come when the audio books will be converted into audio visual books. And that's a day which I am looking forward for. It should be that way.
Yes, sir. Definitely hope it will become true soon. And yes, so these are the questions that we received, sir. And almost you covered so many things struck to our mind to ask the questions also. Almost we covered everything in your lecture itself. And once again, thank you so much, sir. So along with these two special days, today we are also celebrating Global Hand Washing Day with theme Our Hands, Our Future, which mainly aims on three things like foster and support a general culture of hand washing with soap in all societies, shine a spotlight on the state of hand washing in each country, and raise awareness about the benefits of hand washing with soap. And we all know that how hand washing is important, particularly in this corona pandemic. Hope so all of you are continuing the same to stay safe and healthy, like by adopting a habit called hand washing, even after a very small activity. So thank you so much. And once again, sir, I want to say like you have covered all essential elements on subject, and your description of how to execute it in daily life is very, very remarkable, sir. I once again would like to thank you for such a wonderful speech, and hope to get a chance to listen more and more and to associate with you in future, to learn more things from your side. And thank you so much, sir.
Thank
So
you.
on this note, I also would like to thank Manjari ma'am, Nair sir, Stesh Sai sir, and especially our national president, Dr. T.V. Narayana sir, and our technical team and my team members, IPSF team members, and the faculty members of Kundani Polytechnic Pharmacy College. So thank you so much for all your support for being with us today and made this program a very successful one. And we all thank you once again. Thank you so much, sir. Thanks a lot.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So thank you all participants.